Live, perfect.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to our first ever How To with Ellie and Erin. Today we are trying something a bit new. We are streaming into a number of places. We are using StreamYard, so it's all a bit techie. So Erin has been doing her job as head of technology to make sure that it's all working. So what we would love is give us a hashtag replay, hashtag live, let us know where you're watching it. That's just really helpful for us to know moving forward. And thank you very much for joining us. And if you're watching the replay, thank you very much as well. Today, we're going to talk about the mental load. And this is something that's come up for us relatively recently in our She Awakens program. So it's our flagship program. And one of the things we were discussing was this concept of the mental load and why women tend to really struggle with it so much more than men do. And it reminded me of an image that I saw probably months ago actually now, and it was this picture, sort of a cartoon strip of a woman who looked at the kitchen table, and it was covered in stuff, and it had a man doing the same, and the man basically in not very long put everything away, whereas the woman would take one item, and as she would take it to the kid's bedroom, on the way she would walk past a load of towels, so she would pick up the towels and put them in the bathroom, and then she would realize that actually some of them are dirty, so she would go to the washing machine, and then she would realize that the washing hadn't been hung out, so she would hang the washing out, then she would put another load of washing on, and then by the time she got back to the table she's cleared one thing and it's taken 45 minutes. And this was sort of an ongoing process, and that just really resonated with me because that is absolutely how it works in our household. It's very entertaining because my darling husband has this lovely habit of clearing the kitchen table, putting everything into a box and putting the box in the garage. And I've explained that that's not actually tidying up, it's simply removing it from view. But it's that whole thing that we just have this need as women to hold the responsibility for everything that's going on. And Erin, I'd love to know, what are your thoughts about why we do this so much and why it is such a female thing to do?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's because we're capable of it. We get stuck in that process of because we can, we should. So because we can hold the load, we think we should hold the load.
Mm-hmm.
The other part of it is societal. I think there's a lot of conditioning there. I mean, I don't know about you. It's probably slightly less true for our generation than it is for generations before ours. But, inside the house on a daily basis, when you think about all the things that need to be done in our homes now, how much of that did you see your father do and how much of that did you see your mother do? Right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
My dad, lesson did not do a lot.
And that again is conditioning and your mum holding the mental load and not being willing to let go of it. Historically, women have they have been responsible for that stuff, but that's all they were responsible for. They didn't have to then also think about paid work. They didn't also then have to think about all the other things that have been piled upon us now. And as we've picked up things like paid work as part of our expectations of ourselves and the family expectations and all of that sort of stuff, we haven't offloaded anything. We've just been like, oh, you want to take that on, and we'll just take that on, and we'll just take that on, and not actually really thought about, like, at what point is that critical mass going to take us into that space of overwhelm and burnout and feeling like, actually, like, I don't know about you, but there are times when I definitely get a little bit resentful. I'm like, can you not just help? Can you not see all the things that need to be done? And actually the answer is no, they can't.
Yeah. And it's so interesting, isn't it? And I wonder why, I always sort of, think back to, when women started taking paid work. It's almost like we were so grateful for the opportunity to be more than just, women of the of the house and doing those things, that we were kind of like, well, please let us have a job, but we promise we won't let anything else slip. Your dinner will still be on the table. Like this whole sort of, I mean, it goes into a much bigger conversation about equality, equity, and all of those things, which we're not going to touch on right now. But it really is about that whole, like, we just there's so much conditioning that we are the ones who are meant to carry it. And you're absolutely right. We're doing way too much. I mean, Matt and I, we have a pretty 50-50 relationship. Not that's happened really just easily. And a lot of the struggle with that is my releasing control. Anyone who knows us knows that control is definitely one of my things that I'm working on. The words for 2022 are release and allow. So we're getting there slowly. But I think that's one of the challenges with the mental load is we know we're carrying it. We know we've got all of these things to do. And actually, in order to be able to release it, there is an element of being able to be like, right, this is how it is in my head, and this is my expectation of what I think it should look like, how it should be done, all of those things. And actually, there's a moment of just being like, okay, it's not going to look like that if I want to release it. Like, we've got to be open to the fact that it's actually going to change. There's a lot of, I'm carrying so much, it's really hard. But then actually trying to change it doesn't happen, or like we choose not to because of that control. Like when you're in charge of it, or when you know what's going on, you're able to, hold really tightly, and it feels like you're more across everything. I mean, the reality is that that's not true in the slightest, because the more controlling we are, the more tied up we are with a whole load of other things. But anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But it's really challenging, isn't it, that allowing things to look different to the way we perhaps imagine them to.
Yeah, I've definitely been stuck in that in the past, where even asking the children to do something and then just getting frustrated that they're not doing it right. and
How I do it.
Right, exactly. And then taking over. And just doing it, which isn't actually teaching anybody anything, because all it is reinforcing that the status quo is actually exactly how it should be. And I think the first thing when we're looking to release the mental load is really embracing the awareness of what matters about what we carry. So when we're thinking about things like, having a tidy table, or having, like for us, it's laundry. So our children regularly, and I mean like 3 or 4 times a day, because they're children, leave laundry just lying around the house. Right. And I'll ask them to pick it up. And then like we have a hamper in in their bedroom for their laundry. We have a hamper in their bathroom for their laundry. And then we have a hamper in our kitchen/laundry for towels, right? Because towels are always separate. And the number of times that they have taken the laundry from the bathroom, all of the laundry, the towels and the clothes and all of the things, and gone and put it in the hamper in their bedroom, like I couldn't count the number of times. That's pretty much their standard modus operandi. They'll just pick everything up and put, like, all the toys. I've had toothbrushes in there. I've had all sorts of, like, whatever they can get off the floor, they will pick up. They will just pick it up in one big foul swoop, and they'll put it in the hamper. I've stopped caring about the fact that I then have to separate it out. Because for a long time I got really frustrated with it, and I'd be like, you're not doing it right. Come here, I'll show you how to do it. Actually, I'm just freaking grateful that they've done it. Like the fact that I can walk into their bathroom and see a clear floor and not have to step over their boxes and their shorts and their dirty towels and all of that stuff just to get into their bathroom is a blessing. So, but it took me a little while to get to the point, and now they tend to, if they've had a shower, one of them in particular is better than the other, will pick up his clothes and his towel and everything, and they'll just dump it in the hamper. And actually, that is a win as far as I'm concerned. I don't have to think about, gosh, if I had a friend show up now and they wanted to use the bathroom, am I going to have to be like, oh, sorry for the dirty boxes and sorry for the towel that's on the floor and all of that stuff? Or am I just going to know that actually it's done? Is it done to the standard I would do it? Of course not.
That's so true. I think being able to let go of, like, it not looking exactly the same. As I've said, the tidying thing in our household is very much, put things in a box and move it into a different room, and that drives me up the wall. But then sometimes it's actually really nice to have a tidy table. But I think the other thing is as well is that the fact that we've been told we're responsible, then letting it go and finding the best way of doing that. And one of the techniques that I really recommend is actually having like a massive brain dump of everything that you're carrying like in your head. And it can be a little bit terrifying when you do it because there's so much and you'll forget things and then you'll add to it. And so kind of like over a week, almost have a pad of paper and have it in the kitchen so it's somewhere really like obvious and easy. And every time you think of something that needs to be done, write it down. Like whatever it is. So whether it's like, I've got to book the cat in for the vet, I've got to take the car to the garage, I've got to put petrol in the car, I've got to book the kids in for the dentist, I've got like, those are just a few of the things. Or not that I have a cat, I actually have to put the dog in to the vet. I've suddenly got an imaginary cat for some reason. But it's like all of these things that we've got to do. It's just like start putting it down, because if for no other reason, to share that with your partner, if you've got one, is really helpful so they can actually see what you're carrying in there. Because as you said, a lot of like, certainly, I mean, Matt's pretty good. He's pretty on the board with a lot of the stuff. I think mainly because he would play cricket before. He's really good at laundry, so he is like king of laundry in our household, and I am so grateful for that. Although Emily's ballet stuff has now been washed twice this weekend because we had mixed messages on where the things need to be when they're not when they're ready to be washed. But anyway, but actually being able to like get it all down on paper is really helpful. It kind of releases this sort of plug almost, that you can just get it out and get it down. And you can actually sit down and discuss it and look at it and look at how many things are you carrying there that actually don't need to be there. Like that actually don't really need to be done. Like particularly there are a lot of jobs that I find that I have that actually, I don't have to be responsible for if I actually just let somebody else do them or told somebody else that they needed to be done. A lot of the time, Matt doesn't know they need to be done, so it wouldn't even occur to him to do it. Whereas if I told him, he'd be more than happy to do it. And as I find, that does happen. And I'm sure you're the same with Carol in that respect as well. When you're used to holding it all, you kind of hold it and then you forget that other people are actually more than capable of helping. But it also allows you to decide which ones are the, like, what are your non-negotiables? So, shopping for food, unfortunately, it's a non-negotiable. But actually, how can we make that easier? Booking the dog in for the vet, non-negotiable, but actually how can it work? And one of the things that Matt and I have done is actually we've kind of gone through the list of everything that needs to be done, and we've kind of allocated almost letters. So anything to do with cars, that's him. I don't have to think about cars. That said, I still do, but what I can do with it is release it. I can be like, oh, I think my car needs a woof, as they're called over here, MOT for anyone in the UK. That needs sorting, and actually I can just let that go. I can let him know about it, and then we let it go. And the same for him as well. So he knows that I sort all the money stuff out. So if he knows that there's stuff coming up, then he can let me know. And we have those areas of responsibility, and that just really helps. Is that something that you guys use, or how do you manage the mental load between the two of you?
I think a lot of the time it is just about that communication stuff. So, since we had Luca, who's now 7, I've been the primary caregiver. So anything relating to the children is pretty much my responsibility to be conscious of.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, as things like as I'm getting more into business and the children are getting a little bit older and all of that sort of stuff, it's definitely becoming more of a let's talk about what I do need to be responsible for and what someone else can take over. And school lunches is the prime example of that, where like this year leading into that, like they've been at school for a week and a half, and going into this, I was like, right, I actually have enough stuff to do in the morning without having to make lunches for children who haven't bothered to get their lunch boxes out the night before, and have like, my favorite is that my children leave their yogurt bottles that have been opened and used in their lunchbox. So everything is covered in yogurt. And it's disgusting. And frustrating and really fucking annoying. So I said to them at the start of the school year, this year, what I want you to do is make sure that your lunchbox is on the bench to be washed at nighttime. Nice. If it is not there at nighttime when you go to bed, then you will make your own lunch in the morning, and you will have to deal with, washing your dishes and all of that stuff before you do so, because I'm not prepared to make that my morning job. So far, Luca has nailed it every time.
Excellent.
And Asher has made his own lunch twice. The first one was fine. The second one was today, and he doesn't even have a lunchbox today because he left it at school. So,
But it's
we're
all
working
great
on.
training. Like future
Yeah,
partners of your children are going to be incredibly grateful for
yeah,
you doing this work now. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
think
that's the plan, right? I'm like, I've taught them to put the lid down on the toilet when they're finished. I've taught them to do other things that boys don't generally do. So actually, one day I'm going to be the best mother-in-law in the world. But for
perfect.
now,
Love that.
that actually just makes my life a little bit easier. Um,
Yeah.
and going through that process, like I have left that mental load now. I'm like, I'm not going to remind you to get your lunchbox out.
Mm,
If you haven't done it, that's not my problem. My
yeah.
problem is to make sure that you have lunch, and actually that responsibility ends the minute that I have enough food in the house for you to be able to make your own lunch.
But
It's a really
the other thing you're able to do there is actually you're empowering them to be able
mm,
to take some responsibility. And I think that's one of the things we forget a lot when we take on the mental load, when we take on the responsibility for everything that's going on. We forget that by doing that, we're actually disempowering the people around us. We're like we're the only people who can do it, so we're going
yeah,
to be in charge and da, da, da. Whereas actually, if you can just release it, like it allows them to
mhm,
step up and step into the space to be able to do more, and that in itself is really positive for
yeah,
everybody. So it's really interesting when you start to break it all down. And I think one of the biggest challenges is understanding why you still carry it all. Like for
mhm,
me, there is definitely some societal stuff. And that's not in terms of like, my parents being particularly, that was mum's role and that was dad's role. They sort of they were pretty traditional, but dad now is brilliant at cooking and is starting to take on a lot more. Matt is not a typical bloke who is like, I'm going out to work and you do all the household stuff. I mean, he's amazing with the children. We are very, very 50-50. The societal conditioning is me on me. Like, it's what I think my role as mum, as wife, as woman of the house should be. And so
yeah,
actually that's way harder than trying to break down other people's stuff because that's kind of easy when it's actually you. I'm like,
yeah.
right, so why do I need to control the fucking world? It's like
Well,
that is
but the thing is, right,
one of
that
my
is, yes, it's conditioning, but it's also that really wounded mother archetype,
Mm,
right? Like that I can look after you by not giving you more to do. And I can
yeah,
look after you by holding this for you so that you don't have to. Which, is a really nice way to be, where you can say, like, I don't need you to worry about when the car needs to have a warrant of fitness. I don't need you to worry about when the dogs need groomed because actually I've got that. Don't worry about
mm,
it. Right. And it's that whole I love you through service. I
yeah,
love you by making your life easier. But actually, like one of the best and most effective ways of releasing your own mental load is also about releasing everybody else's mental load. So it's about, as you said, like that brain dump process, but have everybody in the house do that.
mm,
Have everybody in the house think about what do you have to think about in a day? Like
yeah.
what do you need to do? What do you do without being asked to or whatever? And some lists will be this long. But that's okay. But the thing is, like, once we externalize it, nobody's holding it. It becomes a
Mm,
collective responsibility. And for the most part, the stuff that we hold should be a collective responsibility,
yeah,
right? And so it's about making a list, putting it on a whiteboard or a bit of paper on a pin board or on the fridge or whatever, and actually saying, like, in a day, this is the stuff that needs to be done. This week, this stuff needs to be done. This month, this stuff needs to be done.
mm,
If you've got time or energy for that, awesome. Go do it. Cross it off the list. Means someone else doesn't have to.
mm.
Everybody's then only responsible for carrying the mental load of going and checking what needs to be done.
Yeah, but then what if they don't do it? Then we've got the mental load of making sure that they're doing it.
Yeah. But then we're releasing that woundedness, and
Mm,
we're providing everybody with the opportunity to be empowered to
yeah,
contribute. And ultimately, no matter, like, I know that like when you offer, a little person in your household, like, you know, a 2-year-old, a 7-year-old, 10-year-old, whatever, when you offer them the opportunity to meaningfully contribute to your quality of life, they will always take you up on it.
That's true.
Right? You offer them to help cook with dinner, you offer them to help like get firewood sorted, or you offer them an opportunity to help you in the garden. Every single time they will take it up. Will they be helpful? Possibly not.
Yeah.
But they want to be part of the collective. They recognize and they have this innate desire to contribute to the well-being of the family collective.
Yeah.
Right? And we take that from them by saying, actually, I'm just going to do all of that stuff. And often we'll notice ourselves pushing them away when they're trying to contribute.
Yeah.
Saying, mummy's just busy. Mummy's just got to get this done. And they're like, but mummy's just, you know, like we push them away. And so we teach them from a really young age that actually their contribution isn't necessary for the well-being of the collective. And then when we want them to contribute, when they're old enough to contribute and we're like, right, now they're not going to completely fuck it up, so I can invite them to do it. They're like, why?
Yeah.
I don't have any power there. You've told me that my whole life.
Yeah, that's so true, isn't it? And I wonder if that's almost one of the challenges that guys have in many ways, is that society has told them to stay out the kitchen, stay out of the laundry, stay out of this. So actually they don't even, there's almost like a lack of knowing how to do it as much as wanting to do it.
And afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
Like how many boys, men, have grown up in a household where if they've tried to contribute, it hasn't been good enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like they've tried to fold the laundry and mum's just been like, what are you even doing? And taken it off them. Or they've done the vacuuming and then mum's like, that's great. I'll just vacuum over the top of where you've been because you didn't do a good enough job.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're constantly getting reinforced that actually what they did wasn't enough.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do, and in order to release our mental load, we have to really think about, like, what's important here? Is it important that it's done? Or is it important that it's done to a particular standard? Because I guarantee you 99% of the time, the fact that it is done is enough.
Yeah.
And we don't need to start putting that societal standard kind of focus on things. Like our kids fold their own laundry. Is it folded? Not really. Is it kind of more scrunched in a ball? Absolutely. But they choose how they look. They choose their clothes. Luca has a thing for shorts that he outgrew about 3 years ago. He really wants to wear them. He really loves them. And we're like, dude, they are way too small. And actually, the only thing that worries us about that is that they're going to be uncomfortable after sitting in them for half a day. Oh, I don't care how they look.
Yeah.
Right? Like it doesn't bother me. And I think we need to let go of that stuff as well. Like stop apologizing when your friend shows up and you're like, oh, I'm really sorry for the mess. They've walked into a family home.
Yeah.
Like they're expecting a mess.
And actually, I have to say personally, nothing makes me happier than when I walk into a friend's house and it is a bit of a mess, because it makes me feel
validation.
It's like my most favorite thing. I'm like, yeah, I'm human. This is okay. Nobody else is living in, pristine perfectness, because, there's nothing better than seeing a basket of laundry not folded.
Or having them to like move all of the laundry off the sofa so you can even sit. Right? Like, but that gives us permission to release our own mental load around that stuff and to actually really check in. And I would challenge you to spend really conscious time every day thinking about what matters. What matters here? What needs to be done in order for us to have good sleep, have good food, and have good movement? Because really, those three things are the fundamentals. And I was talking to someone last week who, she's expecting a baby. And I was like, look, as long as everybody's fed, everybody gets sleep, and everybody feels loved, you will survive. Yeah. Those are the three fundamental things that need to happen for survival in a family unit.
Yeah. And yet we get so caught up in all of the other bullshit that we forget actually what's most important, and that feeling of connectedness. And you're right, I think the bit that really stood out from what you were saying is that whole piece of oh, mum is just busy, mum is just sorting this out. And if I tune into why I do it, there's an element of I've got to get this done, but it's almost like if I'm doing this, then I don't have to think about something else, and sometimes that's just easier. So
Yeah.
my challenge to anyone watching this is to actually check in with yourself and understand why you're doing it. Like, why is the control there? Why are you the one who has to do all of these things? And
Yeah.
you're the best person for the job, brilliant. But then that means you have to be able to release something else. We have to be able to let go of some things.
I would challenge you on that and say, does it have to be the best person on the job?
Oh, yeah,
Or
okay.
can it be anybody that's capable of the job?
Yeah.
Right?
I think what
Like,
I
it
was
doesn't
doing was
have
like,
to be
in
the
the
best
family
person.
unit, are you the best person? Because there are some things that people, it's playing to your strengths. It's that whole, rather than no, I'm going to come back
Yeah,
on this
I'm
one.
listening. I'm listening.
So it's about playing to your strengths. Like, I know that I'm not great at laundry, so actually for me not to do it is way easier than me doing it and doing it badly. So Matt plays to his strengths and he does that, whereas I play to my strengths because I'm really organized of getting
What
other
does
stuff
doing
done.
laundry badly look like?
It means not doing it, quite simply, because I don't like doing it. So if it's going to be done, it's better that it's done by someone who's going to do it, is actually probably the argument here. But I think generally, let's do the stuff we enjoy. I really love hoovering. Like, it makes me happy, especially now that I've got my Dyson. It's not plugged in, so I don't have to drag it out. Brilliant, love doing that. Don't like doing bathrooms. Have a cleaner, just comes in and does my bathrooms because I don't like doing it. So it's all about pulling the things, and that's what I've spent a lot of time working on. Where am I good? What are the things I like doing? I really enjoy cooking, so I'm more than happy to do that cooking stuff. Actually, you know what? Sometimes I get a bit over cooking for the girls, so that's when we split. So it's kind of going through the list and being able to, like, identify what are the things that you like doing, what are the things that you're quite good at doing. You may not necessarily like them, but you're quite good at doing them, and what are the things that actually do not bring you any joy whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, and get those ones off your list. I think it is really being able to do that and be really honest and truthful. And I agree that anyone should be able to do it, and it doesn't have to be done to perfection. All of those things I absolutely agree with, but I also think there are some things that need to be done. And actually, I want to be doing the things that I know that I'm going to be better at doing than the ones that I'm not going to be very good at doing, because that's going to make me happier as a person. And that may not make me perfect, and that may make me, the person who is releasing the mental load, but perhaps not totally, but I'm managing my mental load, because actually maybe that's what we're coming down to, is releasing it is maybe not necessarily realistic for people. I don't think I'll ever fully release mine, but I can manage my mental load. And by finding those elements that I can let go of, that I can do, that I'm good at, that I can let go of things I'm not so good at, helps me, which is me just audibly processing, in case anyone was watching, wondering what was going on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If we were talking about how to release the mental load, I think the key things are understand what your mental load really looks like. Like, really pay attention to what are you thinking about, what's on your to-do list, what are the stuff that where is your energy and your focus going to, around what needs to be done and how it needs to be done and when it needs to be done and all of that stuff, and really understand it. The next part of that is about being brutally honest with yourself about how much of that is needing to be done by you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, give yourself permission to really look at it and say, actually, am I as important as I'm making myself out to be here?
Yeah.
Because that's part of it, right? Like, we hold it, and it's like this trophy that we hold. Like, oh, I couldn't possibly have coffee. I've got all these things I've got to do.
Yeah. We used to
Right.
laugh about that when children weren't sleeping. In fact, we probably still do now. Like, who was the most tired? It was like, it was the shittest trophy to win ever. Like, but I'm the most tired because I had to get up and do this. It's kind of like we do the same thing with men. But I'm the busiest. Because I've got this, and this. It's like, well, who wants to win the busiest trophy? How about we actually, like, stop trying to win that badge and put it down and be like, right, I'm going for the least busy badge this week.
Yeah.
That's
So really be honest with yourself around what is necessary for you to be carrying and what can be held by others. Whether that's a joint holding of something or a passing it off to someone else. But then also really look at like the power dynamic that you're inviting into your family and into your home. So if you're holding on to all of the power for making sure that everything is done, yes, you're empowered to get that stuff done, but you're disempowering everyone around you as well.
Mhm.
And so being able to have introduce a little bit of flexibility there and really be honest with yourself about like, what are the things that I could hand off to my children?
Mm.
What are the things I could hand off to my partner? What are the things we could outsource as a family? Right? Like
Yeah.
really be honest about that and empower everybody to have a part in that conversation. Let them bring their mental load and don't do that with judgment, because none of them, the mental load is going to be anywhere near yours. And some
Mm.
of the stuff that they're carrying, I guarantee you, doesn't matter.
Mm.
But they'll still come anyway with like, my son. One of the things when we have this conversation in our household, one of the things he comes with pretty much every time is, I'm just wondering who I'm having a play date with this week. Like, and he carries that. He carries
Mm.
that mental load. And it
Yeah.
stops him from doing other things because he's so focused on that thing. And so we're
Mm.
like, okay, well, like actually this week, you're not having a play date. We've got this and this and this on. It's just not going to happen, mate. So let that go. We'll revisit next week.
Mm.
If you want to schedule a one for the next week, we can work out who that's going to be with. That's fine. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, but it takes a little bit of compassion and a little bit of patience, but being able to empower everybody to contribute is a lifelong reward system for
Yeah.
yourself,
Well,
right?
it
Because
also it grows good humans then, doesn't it, as well?
it
So,
does.
we're
It
also
does, even if they're like 45 already.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also that it means that they can, we're actually not we're breaking the chain, which is, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the work that we do. It's actually about breaking the chain. We actually want to make it different for our children. We want the world to look differently, and the only way that's going to happen is if we show up differently, however uncomfortable that might be, however much that might challenge us, in places we didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Even just, understanding why you're carrying it, being able to put it down, and even just learn to manage it a little bit better is going to start to make a difference. And it's going to change the way you show up. It's going to change the way your friends see you, the way your family see you. And that, at the end of the day, is just, it's that lighting the candle. It's showing people that things can be done differently. And as far as I'm concerned, that has got to be the bonus in all of this. So anyway, we have talked quite a lot at length. We've shared a lot about our families. So you're starting to see a little bit about how our worlds live. We'd love to know what comes up for you. What are the mental loads that you're carrying? What are the things that actually you're really struggling to put down?
Yeah.
Tell us, let us know. We can help. We can provide support if possible. And if you're interested in being able to better manage how you show up in the world, we've got a free workshop that is taking place in a couple of weeks called Awakening the Goddess Mindset, your Goddess Mindset. And that's all about being able to be aware of all of the things that impact how you show up in the world, and to help identify which areas you can make some changes in to show up even better. So it's going to be a really cool week of content. We've been mapping it out, having lots of deep conversations about what we're sharing. And I, for one, am very excited about it. And I know that Erin is as well. So we will put a link somewhere in the comments. Again, this is, I'm kind of asking Head of Tech to do this. So that feel free to sign up. We would love to see you. And yeah, let us know what you think. We have got a few of these planned. If there's anything that you would like a how-to about, please let us know. We are here to serve. We are here to help. So let us know what's coming up for you. Any final words, my friend? What have you got? What wisdom can you impart our viewers with before we say goodbye?
Nothing really. I think I think the most important thing about releasing the mental load is the willingness to for things to be a little bit uncomfortable for a while.
Mm.
So it's not going to be an easy process to do it. It's not going to be the kind of process that looks pretty, but it is absolutely the right way to give yourself some space and some time and some energy that you are currently expending elsewhere. It's the right way to empower your partner to be a true partnership with you. And it's the right way to encourage your children to understand that they can have the good feeling of contributing and being part of something bigger than themselves. And ultimately, that's what we firmly believe in, is that, we need to be raising good citizens of the world, and contribution is a massive part of that. So, yeah, it won't be pretty. It may not even be that fun, but
It will be worth it.
it's worth the energy, it's worth the effort, and yeah, it will change your life when you can, say to someone in your family, "Hey, this needs to be done, and I'm not sure I can get it done. Can you do it?" And have them go, "Yeah, don't worry, I've already done it."
Yeah.
Like, game changer.
Sounds amazing. Thank you very much for joining us. We will be back next week, and yeah, would love to know your thoughts.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.